When the old lady was sorting through her deceased husband's belongings, she discovered an 8mm videotape. After viewing the contents inside, she was terrified, because the videotape contained the entire process of a young girl being murdered, and from the camera angles in the footage, it wasn't hard to tell. This wasn't a movie at all. It was more like a documentary that had been filmed. The old lady couldn't understand why her honest husband would have had something like this. To resolve her inner doubts, the old lady spent a fortune to hire a private investigator to have him investigate the truth of the matter. However, when Cage saw the contents of the videotape, he suddenly felt his scalp tingling, because the content was just too brutal. Afterwards, Cage suggested to the old lady that she turn this videotape over to the police, but his suggestion was rejected by the old lady, because her family was a famous wealthy household in the area. If she did this, it would affect their entire family's reputation, as long as they could find out the truth behind it. She was willing to pay any amount of money. Cage tried to find some clues from the video. Sure enough, after examining it frame by frame, he discovered this videotape was made 20 years ago. The killer also had a pentagram tattoo on his hand. Finally, after a month of investigation, he found clues in the missing persons files. The girl's name was Mary, and when she disappeared, she was only 16 years old. To figure out Mary's story from back then, Cage followed the information to find Mary's mother. The mother said Mary didn't get along well with her stepfather. The two of them often argued. The day Mary disappeared happened to be after she got angry and left home, and then never came back. However, what was strange was, she didn't take any luggage with her at the time. This made Cage feel even more that something was wrong. He went to Mary's room. After searching around, he found a diary in the toilet tank. There was a note tucked inside. It clearly stated she didn't run away from home because of fighting with her stepfather, but because she had gotten a boyfriend. Her boyfriend told her to go to Hollywood to make movies. However, unfortunately, since she left, there had been no news of her. To avoid making her mother sad, Cage didn't tell her about this. He wrote down Mary's boyfriend's name. Perhaps it would become a breakthrough in the case. Unexpectedly, when he arrived at the boy's house, his father said his son had been sent to prison. Having no choice, Cage had to go to the prison to find him. Only then did Cage learn the truth of the matter. It turned out Mary had indeed gone to Hollywood with him back then. But before long, Mary got involved with a director from a film company, and then he never saw Mary again. The boy then said, "In Hollywood, becoming a star isn't easy. You can only get ahead by taking the dirty route." Realizing Mary might have gone to make adult films, Cage quickly rushed to Hollywood. Deciding to search for clues in underground trading venues, he came to an adult bookstore. A hood on the table caught his attention. The killer who murdered Mary wore this type of hood, so Cage purchased 2 rare videotapes. The content in the videotapes was very similar to Mary's situation. The only difference was that the female lead was different. According to the store owner's description, the female leads in these videotapes all came from a shelter. Cage immediately went to this shelter. Then he took out Mary's photo, wanting to try his luck to see if the staff recognized her. Unexpectedly, the nun recognized this girl at first glance, because Mary was the most beautiful girl here back then. She had a very deep impression of her. Afterwards, the nun led Cage to a warehouse and gave him the suitcase that Mary had forgotten to take when she left. In this suitcase, Cage made another new discovery. Inside was still another diary, and there was also a small note tucked inside. It had Mary's dream of becoming a star written on it. On the back of the note was a film company's phone number. To resolve his inner doubts, Cage took Mary's photo to this film company. Who knew that when the boss saw Mary's photo, he suddenly froze. Then sweat started forming on his forehead. Afterwards, he looked down and said he didn't recognize her, then turned around and left the office. This immediately made Cage sense something was wrong. To properly investigate this boss, he then found his friend to inquire about that boss's identity. It turned out he was a Hollywood director. As long as the money was right, he dared to film anything. To get close contact with him, Cage pretended to say he wanted to shoot a film, having his friend reach out to invite that boss. Soon he arrived at the filming location. Only then did Cage finally see that male lead. However, what was strange was, the female lead still hadn't appeared. Just when Cage was feeling confused, the other party picked up a crossbow and aimed it at him, then told Cage to hand over his gun. It turned out they had known Cage's intentions all along. Just then, a person slowly walked over. He was the old lady's family's private lawyer. From him, they learned the real boss of the film company was the old lady's husband. He appeared honest and simple on the surface, but behind the scenes he was a pervert. He would arrange for some stars to shoot films. After several hours passed, Cage came to the old lady's house. However, when the butler opened the door, he said the old lady had died an hour ago. Obviously, after learning the truth, she wanted to preserve the family's reputation and tried to use death to cover up the truth of the matter. The butler gave Cage a note, telling Cage to forget everything. The film ends here.